This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. A major winter storm is moving across the country, bringing with it a wide range of disturbing weather. The system first rolled into the Pacific Northwest over the weekend, dumping several inches of snow. 3 skiers in Washington had to be rescued from an avalanche.
People to be overly cognizant and just always, be in teams of 2 or more, and always use like the buddy system when they go in the backcountry.
The National Weather Service has now issued a winter storm watch in several states today through the weekend. Weather officials say the upper Midwest and northeastern parts of the country could see 7 to 10 inches of snow, while several inches of snowfall in some areas is already causing dangerous road conditions and travel delays. Officials in several states have been warning drivers to remain vigilant. Joining us now is the chief forecaster with weatherbell.com, Joe Bastardi. Joe, give us the forecast for the next few days. What can people expect?
Well, the big story with this is snow from the Tennessee Valley through the Carolinas right into your backyard of Virginia Beach. And we all know what snow is like in the South, and that's the big problem when you start getting snow down into Charlotte and Greenville, Spartanburg, and even over to Virginia Beach. We're looking for 2 to 4, locally 6 inches of snow in that I-40 corridor in there. That could become a big problem for a couple of days because people aren't used to driving on it. So this isn't quite as big as some of the other storms we've seen, but it's noteworthy because of where it's going. It's sort of the first shot of winter into the heart of the Southland, and it's going to be a pretty interesting event. You've got cold air pressing in as the low pressure comes out of the Gulf of Mexico, rolls off the North Carolina coast. So the cold air arrives. A lot of places will start as some rain very late tonight or tomorrow morning and change on over to snow after that. And like I said, several inches can accumulate in areas that don't see a lot of snow. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the normal snow amounts, I believe in Virginia Beach, it's only around 7 inches, 8 inches a year. You could get half your normal snow amounts, and winter is a long way from being done. Believe me, we've talked about this a couple of times. That after Groundhog said winter was over, that the winter looked to me to be if it was right, spring was right around the corner, a long way around the block. So this storm is out in the plains right now. We don't see it going, let's say through Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, but instead reforming with its band of snow in the Tennessee Valley, right into North Carolina and southeast Virginia tomorrow.
Is this the last of winter storms, or is there more expected before things warm up?
No. And as a matter of fact, no, it's not the last of winter storms. I would not be surprised if, we fill in the I-95 corridor next week with snow because they've been missing it so far. There's a lot of bang still left in this winter. And I think that this is going to run through March. I think overall spring across the United States, at least through March and maybe into April, is going to be cool and a lot of wet again. So we've been pushing that idea for quite some time. And I'm one of these guys where if I'm going to be wrong, I'll be wrong once. In other words, if you keep flipping your ideas around, you can be wrong a dozen times. So we thought it was going to be a late winter. I'll stick with that for right now.
All right, well, quickly, how can people prepare for the storm and stay safe?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of funny. I was on the radio, used to be on the radio at Virginia Beach back into the Carolinas years ago. And every time I forecast snow, people would accuse me that say, well, yeah, you have stock in Food Line or Winn-Dixie or something like that. I think in 2 days it melts off. The problem is that when it's snowing, and when it goes from rain to sleet to snow like that, the roads get icy real quick. You have to be very, very, very patient and understand that the sun right now is as strong as it is in October. So even if you get a snow that covers the roads, the following day it's going to melt off in most places, and you'll be able to go places. So I would urge patience with that type of thing and enjoy it. My goodness, it's wintertime. It's supposed to snow. Go out and make snowmen. Don't hit anybody with snowballs. And I know you guys like making snow angels, so for that.
Yeah, we make angels here at the Christian Broadcasting Network. All right, Joe Bastardi, our chief weather forecaster with Weather Bell. Thanks for your time, Joe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
In political news, Democratic candidate for President Michael Bloomberg faces his rivals for the first time tonight. The field taking the debate stage in Nevada 3 days before the state's caucus. And as Charlene Aaron explains, it could get nasty.
Tonight's debate could see Democrats tearing into former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, the billionaire businessman facing other Democrats on the debate stage for the first time, and it could get nasty. He's vaulted to double-digit showings in the polls after a $380 million ad blitz, bypassing his opponents and skipping the early primary states. A new Washington Post ABC News poll shows Bernie Sanders surging in first place at 32%. Bloomberg is now battling with former Vice President Joe Biden for second place after his ad blitz. Democratic rivals Bernie Sanders, Amy Klobuchar, and Pete Buttigieg, who've been toiling on the campaign trail for months, attacking him as buying the election.
The working people of this country are tired of a corrupt political system in which billionaires think they can buy elections.
No, he's definitely trying to buy the race, but here's the thing, it's not that simple. You have to actually be willing to look voters in the eye, to take questions. At some point, you've got to be ready to be challenged.
I can't beat him on the airwaves, but I can beat him on the debate stage.
Bloomberg has announced that if he wins the presidential election, he'll put his company into a blind trust and sell it. The former New York City mayor is also vulnerable to accusations of past comments demeaning women and his former support of stop and frisk policies in minority neighborhoods.
Michael Bloomberg, with $62 billion, can buy every ad he wants, but he can't, in fact, wipe away his record on everything from dealing with stop and frisk to his foreign policies.
On CBN's Faith Nation program, CBN News political correspondent David Brody discussed Bloomberg's first debate appearance.
Well, all of the fire will be on Bloomberg for sure. He is going to be a man with an X on his back and front and head and all of that. Look, why is he rising? I mean, he is rising for sure. I mean, I watch television. There it is, Bloomberg. I mean, it's TV ad after TV ad.
Meanwhile, President Trump is staying in Las Vegas as he visits several states in the region, including California. He'll hold a campaign rally in Nevada Friday night, the day before the state's caucus.
Well, I'll be making a speech in Nevada. We got more votes than any incumbent president in history in Iowa and in New Hampshire, as you saw. And in that case, I went just before the day before, and I went the day before. In both cases, Iowa, New Hampshire. So it seems to be effective.
There are 3 more Democratic debates, including another one this month, ahead of the South Carolina primary on February 29th. The final 2 debates are in March and April. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
All eyes are on the Virginia legislature as lawmakers are poised to pass bills that could affect how churches and other faith-based organizations operate. But what's really behind this push to control how churches and Christian schools work? CBN's Eric Phillips brings us the answer from Richmond.
3 controversial bills are close to final votes. Opponents point out that their major concern is the same steps being taken to stop discrimination trample on the religious freedom of the faithful.
As everyone is aware, the bills came fast and furious this session with nearly 50 bills to further the LGBTQ agenda.
The Family Foundation came to Richmond, sounding the alarm over bills they believe represent a weaponizing of the government against the church. 2, outlaw discrimination in public places based on factors such as gender and sexual orientation. If they become law, it could have serious implications for an all-boys Christian school and similar organizations.
The laws being proposed really, at the end of the day, are going to hurt freedom of speech and freedom of religion to express one's religion and religious convictions.
Separate boys and girls' restrooms could also become a thing of the past if the Democratic majority has its way. A third bill would prohibit hiring and firing practices based on gender or sexual orientation. Think about churches that only have male priests or a convent with all female nuns. How far would it go?
This is the first time we've ever seen something that affects quote-unquote public accommodation, which is very vaguely defined and will sweep in anything that's essentially open to the public. And because people of faith have different views about what is sexuality and what are genders, they're going to come under the wrath of government for having a counter view.
Opponents of the bills say the very rules meant to thwart discrimination would in fact heap it on them.
We're very concerned that this could lead to persecution of our churches in various forms and penalties from the state simply because of our religious beliefs and convictions.
On CBN News' Faith Nation, Regent University's Gerson Moreno-Riaño said he's very concerned about the potential expansion of the Attorney General's prosecutorial powers.
To argue that the Attorney General, the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Virginia, could initiate civil actions based on what he or she may think is happening or what could happen, again, very, very scary.
The Family Foundation will push for amendments to these bills to protect faith-based entities. But if they pass as is, they will then turn to the governor to make the changes, though the chances of that are slim. In Richmond, Virginia, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Progressives across the country are urging other states to follow the Virginia model. If you want to let these lawmakers know where you stand, go to cbn.com/faith in action and let your voice be heard. And for more political news and analysis, be sure to catch Faith Nation this evening. You can watch it right here on the CBN News Channel. New cases of the coronavirus appear to be slowing. China announced more than 1,700 new cases and 136 new deaths. That brings the total numbers to 74,000 infections and more than 2,000 deceased. Among the latest deaths, a 51-year-old doctor in Wuhan, China, leading the fight against the virus there. In Japan, the quarantine on a cruise ship is ending. Officials diagnosed some 542 new cases of the virus on the ship, the largest number of infections in one place outside of China. Those who have not been diagnosed with the virus will be allowed to leave, but face quarantines in their home countries. Coming up, how one organization is keeping up the fight for a Nigerian Christian teenager who was kidnapped 2 years ago and has stood firm in her faith.
To have sex before you're married is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faithwire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
On this day 2 years ago, one of the most violent terrorist groups in the world kidnapped then 14-year-old Nigerian Christian Leah Sharibu. The Boko Haram faction, the Islamic State West African province, abducted Leah along with 109 of her female classmates. In the days to follow, 5 girls died in captivity and 104 were released about a month later. Her captors kept Leah alone because she refused to renounce her faith in Jesus Christ and convert to Islam. And joining us now to give us an update on Leah is the executive director of the nonprofit organization Save the Persecuted Christians, Dee Dee Lageson. Welcome, Dee Dee.
Hi, Mark.
What is the latest news that you've heard about Leah? Is she still alive?
We have heard that Leah is alive. Unfortunately, she has been forcibly married to a Boko Haram commander and has recently given birth to a son, so we're told.
What else do you know about Leah? Can you give us any more details on her whereabouts, her morale? I know is she still standing firm and not renouncing her faith in Jesus Christ?
We are not really sure. It's very hard to get information out of captivity with ISWAP, the Islamic State in West Africa, as you said, a faction of Boko Haram. But her family says that the federal government of Nigeria knows her whereabouts, and they are demanding that Leah be found and released.
And I understand that she is a new mom. Can you elaborate on that? What do you know about that?
Yes, as I said, that Leah apparently has been forcibly married to a Boko Haram commander, that she likely was forcibly converted. That doesn't mean that in her heart she has given up the faith, but she very well may have been abused and even brainwashed at this point. The captivity that she is enduring now is extreme, and what Leah faces every single day is something that is only we can dream of in our nightmares.
And she has a new baby then?
Yes, we're told that she has a newborn son delivered only a few weeks ago.
Okay, all right. Well, your organization reports that the Nigerian president, like you said, has said the government is committed to making sure every child kidnapped by insurgents will be released. What action is the government taking now?
Well, we are hoping that President Muhammadu Buhari will actually find and help obtain the release of Leah. But Leah's family, Rebecca Sharibu, is in London today at the Nigerian High Commissioner's holding a prayer vigil. And President Muhammadu Buhari has arrived in London. They have delivered a letter to him demanding her release. We have heard from President Buhari before that he would act and obtain her release. But so far, it's always been just an opportunity to speak of this in the news, and we haven't really seen any action.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Dee Dee Lageson, the Executive Director of Save the Persecuted Christians. Thank you for your time and insights and blessings as you work for the freedom of Leah Sharibu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
Still ahead, the special celebrations that are happening this weekend to mark an important day in America's history.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the Home Front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
Welcome back to Newswatch. America marks the birthday of George Washington this weekend. Washington, known as the father of our country, and other founding fathers based their shaping of this nation on a foundation laid by the first fathers. That group, known as Pilgrims, arrived here 400 years ago this year. Plymouth, Massachusetts, where they landed, will hold special celebrations. Paul Strand interviewed one of the main organizers of the festivities, himself a Pilgrim reenactor.
We're talking to Paul Jaley today of the Plymouth Rock Foundation and a Pilgrim reenactor in Plymouth. And I understand we're on the 400th anniversary of the Pilgrims landing in Plymouth.
That's right, and big year.
Yeah, what are you guys going to be doing up in Plymouth?
Well, there's a string of town events that are taking place beginning in April. But we are doing an event June 28 to 30, emphasizing the faith of the Pilgrims, what truly brought them here to the New World. The inspiration they had from the scriptures and the believers. And most people are unaware of the fact that it was a church plant that founded New England in 1620. And so we're going to be emphasizing that, reenacting a Pilgrim church service, historic tours, seminars, workshops, dramatic musical, and actually reenacting the landing in front of Plymouth Rock on Tuesday, June 30.
All right. Now, I understand that a lot of people think the Pilgrims were these old, stodgy folks just following a bunch of commandments and rules, and, life was very strict. But what did they think about the God of liberty and this idea of freedom as they were coming to America?
Well, the first freedom that they really began to be cognizant of was internal liberty, liberty of conscience, freedom from sin. That's why they said God began to reform their lives by His grace. And this was the most important thing that the Pilgrims began with, because they were a remnant as part of the great revival known as the Reformation. So here they were at the peak of that revival, and they were very conscious of this. They actually formed a covenant in their church to protect that liberty from within. As they continued to grow and be taught by their pastor, John Robinson, they began to understand that the liberty from within also comes without. And that's where they began to recognize, gee, there's no religious freedom here in England, and that's why they ended up in Holland, in order to have more protection of religious liberty. So not only did you have internal spiritual liberty, but external religious liberty, and eventually, as Robinson wrote them that famous letter, he said to them, you're going to become a civil body politic. So now they recognize, gee, civil liberty, blown off course, not in their original area where their patent and charter would be. They wrote that Mayflower Compact. And it was unique in several ways because it was the beginning of self-government here in America. Bottom-up liberty. The franchise of Plymouth always had the idea you did not have to be a church member in order to vote. So here was a great liberty and the original jurisdictional separation of church and state.
Do we, with our U.S. Constitution, do we see any sort of shadow of what the Pilgrims did in Plymouth? Do we see in the way that they formed their first government together?
Sure, because you look at the Mayflower Compact as like a charter, just like the Declaration of Independence is a charter. When you read the Mayflower Compact, it says, in the name of God, amen. We whose names are underwritten, the subjects of the king. So it's God to the people and then to the king. That power flow would be the same as the Declaration of Independence. Now, of course, the Pilgrims didn't know this at the time, and it's like a seed that would grow over time. But there's no question there's a link between some of the things the Pilgrims began to do, whether it's economic liberty, civil liberty, religious liberty, self-rule, thanksgiving, the idea of giving thanks to God even in the midst of suffering. You think of all that they went through as a church and a small group of believers, only half of them from the church on the Mayflower, others that were coming for other reasons. You know, so many lessons Christians can learn and Americans can learn from this story. It's a shame the Pilgrims often are just a footnote in history books. And so we want to be able to portray it fully from the real faith that brought them here and the faith that inspired them to do it.
Amen. Well, Paul, I hope a lot of people show up for the 400th anniversary up there in Plymouth.
Yeah, and then go to our website, www.plymrock.org, and they can find all the information, the schedule, and everything that they need to do to register and see you up in historic Plymouth.
Amen. Thank you very much, Paul Jaley from the Plymouth Rock Foundation. Back to you.
Coming up, pastors in Tennessee say revival that is exploding among various churches, and they say it shows God is moving. We're going to have that story when we come back.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
No spur balls, man. Coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Revival is taking place in Tennessee as churches from various denominations have partnered in prayer and fasting. Awaken Tennessee is a 30-day initiative for prayer and fasting that started January 26th and runs through February 23rd. Powerful pictures there. The meetings were supposed to last 10 days, but they were extended when the people decided to keep going because of how they saw God moving. The initiative actually first began last year in Nashville when 400 churches came together to pray for every single resident of the city. This year, the East Rogersville Baptist Church kept the movement going. The church's pastor, John Butler, told CBN News every service for the planned conference was filled with God's presence. People were getting serious about dealing with personal sin, and people were coming to Christ for salvation. 30-year feuds were made right. Relationships have been restored, and many masks have been removed. People made public confessions of sin, bitterness, and laziness about their involvement in God's kingdom activity. To read more about the event, go to our website at cbnnews.com. Boy, that's great news there and a great way to end this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. Or you can talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.